Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm the Reverend Hellbilly. I don't waste time on intros, so let's get right into this one. We're going to talk about used gear today. I love buying used gear. I'm always on the hunt for a deal for used gear. You know, it's part of the whole thing. It's just part of what I do, and I love that part of it. You know, um, I'm not above going to Goodwill. I find stuff at Goodwill. Generally, I find gig bags at Goodwill. Like more than anybody can imagine. The guy from the music store goes to Goodwill all the time, and I'm always bringing him, hey, look at this gig bag. I found you. Want to get it from me? Blah blah blah. And he's always like, how do you always get those gig bags? I'm like, I don't know. And Fender gig bags and like TKL gig bags and good gig bags. I mean, I haven't found any crappy gig bags, and they're always like $4. So and then snare drums I find stuff at Goodwill. So I love shopping for used gear. Now, you have to be careful with used gear. You have to. Okay, guitars, let's do that one real quick. There's a lot of fake guitars out there right now. So you have to be careful and I buy on Facebook a lot. You have to be careful on there. There is Fender custom shops, Stratocasters out there that are made in China that it's really hard to tell that if you don't know exactly every piece that's on that guitar, it can be really hard to tell. So be careful with guitars. We had a Gibson floating around over here that was just an amazingly beautiful guitar that was fake, and it was getting sold, cheap. And when I looked at it, I said, I never seen that model before. I went and looked up. That model didn't exist anywhere. It was just some crazy Gibson that somebody made, and it wound up in the music store, and it looked great. And I said, "Oh, I want to play it." I wanted to touch it, and when I touched it, I mean, I could tell you like within 30 seconds that that was not a Gibson. A nice high-end expensive Gibson. It was not. It was a Gibson. I mean, it felt worse than an Epiphone Les Paul. So, guitars, please be careful out there when you're buying them. Amps. Okay, so transistor amps for the most part, they're pretty stable. Like that Marshall back there. It's a valve state. It's got one 12AX7 tube in it. If that 12AX7 tube is bad, which they usually are, they only last a couple of years. It's no big deal. It's a $9 to $12 12AX7 tube. You pop it out, you pop it in. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't need to go get benched anywhere. It's something you can do. I mean, it's a little scary if you never took an amp apart before. If you ever take an amp apart, take all the plugs and unplug them. And be careful, because the power transformer keeps the power. If you got to touch something in there, don't use a screwdriver. Use a chopstick. That amp can zap you and freaking really do some damage. I mean, really. Tube amps are way worse. So, careful when you take an amps apart. But for the most part, if you're careful, you can deal with that. I bought that Marshall off of Facebook used. I knew the girl's boyfriend that had it. I knew the girl, her boyfriend had it. I asked him, I asked her, hey, is it good? Everything was good. They just had a baby. He hadn't played in a couple of years. He's like, I don't really need a Marshall. He's like, I need a pig nose or something. I'm like, okay, So I bought off him. Took it home. I love that amp. I plugged it in. AC/DC all the way. Angus Young all day long. 3 hours I played straight. I love that amp. I know people say, oh, valve states are boo-boo, whatever. That's a limited edition. Limited edition Marshalls and first run Marshalls, I've never had any bad experience with. My JCM 900 combo that's sitting over there, I bought that brand new. It was the first one. I lived in New York City. It was the first one I could find in Brooklyn. It was at a mom and pop store who he had a Marshall thing, so he got it like 2 months before Sam Ash or Guitar Center or anybody like that, because he was a Marshall dealer, and they used to do that back in the day. The small mom and pop shops that were really supporting them, they would give them, the stuff first, and then, the big ones, anyway, they got to go through all the rigmarole of everything. It's got to go to a warehouse, it's got to get marked, and blah, blah, blah. Nowadays they do drop shipping, but back then they didn't do drop shipping. So anyway, but amps, a tube amp, you gotta know if you see a deluxe reverb tube amp for $250, $350, even if it's beat to crap, that amp's worth $750. Okay? A deluxe reverb is worth money every day of the week if it works. No matter what it looks like, it's worth $600 to $750. So you gotta know that. So if you see one for $250 or $350, you gotta know that you are going to have to put $400 into that amp. There's no doubt about it. You might not have to do it today. You might get it home and it works fine today, but you're going to turn it on and you're going to look in the back and you're going to see the power amp tubes are blue. If you got blue power amp tubes, you know what that means? They're leaking. They're bad. Tube amps, the tubes are always bad when you buy them. That's why people are selling them. Like, oh, it doesn't sound good anymore. Yeah, well, tubes don't last. Transistors last forever. Tubes don't last forever. Tube amps have capacitors in them. Those don't last forever. Some of the older ones are have wax paper around them and stuff. Those don't last, So if you're buying an old Fender, you can wind up with those capacitors in there. They're not going to last. Power transformers. Oh, if you get a tube amp and it won't turn on, but it's just the tubes. No, it's not. No, if you got a tube amp and it won't turn on, and I've seen guys, what they'll do is they'll pull the tubes. Oh, well, the tubes are broken, so I pull them out so it won't turn on. It's not. It's the power transformer, and a power transformer can be, sometimes you can find power transformers for $150. Most of the time they're $250, $350. It depends on the amp. If you got a JCM 800 with 4 power tubes in it, you're probably looking at a $400 power transformer. If you got a Fender Deluxe Reverb with 2, it depends on the model too. They change Fenders all the time, so you might have some weird model that had some weird power transformer. It does happen. I'm not saying that's the way it is, but it does happen. Just realize, if you buy a tube amp, and you look on Reverb or somewhere like that, and you see it goes for $600 to $750, no matter the condition, and you're getting it for $250 or $350, you are going to pay that $650 to $750 for the amp, because it's going to have to get fixed. Tube amps are something that you just always have to keep maintained. Okay? They're like a car. You just, you're not going to drive a car for 20 years and not do the brakes and, have to put new tires on and put a belt on. That's what a tube amp is like. It's something you have to always maintain. So I don't practice down here with tube amps. I just use the Vox, and I have my Frankenstein amp over there that I built, and they're all transistor amps, and it's fine. I'm in the basement and I'm practicing. There's no drummer, there's nothing, it's just me and you guys. So the tube amps they're around, but they're not here. I don't put them in, the Marshall's here. I try not to put them over here so I don't get tempted, because when you have tube amps, they sound amazing. You're like, I want to play a tube amp, when you plug it in. Well, if I don't keep them here, then I don't do that, because they cost me money to maintain, and that's all there is to it. You just have to retube these things. If you have a tube amp for 20 years and it doesn't sound good, you probably need some new tubes in it, and there's probably a capacitor in it. Capacitors are the things you can't see because they're in the chassis, but the caps, they go. They don't last 40, 50 years. They just don't, Maybe in the perfect situation where there's not moisture and you don't play the amp, it could last, but that's not going to happen. It just doesn't happen. I'm in the Midwest, and it doesn't happen here. They last about 20, 25 years if they're good, and then you got to get them replaced. And just know that when you're buying a tube amp, it's not something, you're buying a car that someone didn't do the maintenance on. You're buying an amp probably someone didn't do the maintenance on, doesn't know how to do the maintenance on. Be prepared. So buying used gear is fun though, but there's things out there in the used market that you need, that you can save money on, so that you can spend money on your tube amps and your fancy guitars. Here is a Pedal Train Junior. See that? Pedal Train pedal board. Man, I got this off Facebook. $20. Perfect condition. I mean, who would even care if that's scratched up? With the case. Oh my gosh. Now these go for $110 on Reverb all day long. Used. So that's my thing. With the used gear, buying used gear, buy the used gear that you don't have to worry about. I don't have to worry about if that, if the rubber foot was coming off, I have to fix the rubber foot. That's not a big deal. I have a Power Train, Pedal Train Pro, this big, huge 36 inches by 20 inches or 18 inches. That was $50. That's $350 with the bag all day long, So I got, $450 worth of pedal boards, and I'm in at $70. So if you're gonna, short yourself, try to go short on things that you don't plug in. They don't have on and off switches, They don't have switches you have to step on, stuff like that. Now, buying pedals, you have to question that one. Here's a pedal. Okay, it's a cool pedal. It's vintage. It's probably 30 years old. It is a Surf and Turf compressor from Dan Electro. It's all plastic. This is all plastic. I don't think there's any metal. Oh no, the back door is metal. Weird thing is this actually takes a battery at this small. Would I buy this pedal used, being in the plastic? I don't know. It's questionable. Now here's a Dan Electro pedal. This is all metal. This is a zinc case. The back door is metal. The battery door. I want to say the battery door. The battery door is plastic. But I could open this up and see, that the knobs are on a circuit board, but they're on a separate circuit board than the main circuit board. They're tied in. Could this be broken too? Yeah, this one is broken. I paid $20 for it, but it is broken. But I wanted to modify one. So, this one works. This is my original one. I could tell because of the Velcro on the back that's been there since the 90s. But, so this I would buy because it's metal, it's hardcore, it's heavy duty, it's not going to break, Here is another example. This is vintage Boss DM3 delay. If you see this pedal for $25, really think about buying it, because this is a vintage Boss pedal. These are worth money. Now, this one in particular isn't like worth $500 or $700 or anything. It probably should be, but it's not. But it's worth $150. So if you've seen it, but be aware that it's probably not going to work, because this is old. This is old. I mean old. This is from the 80s. This is the original. I bought this at Guitar Center a long, long time ago. So I have the box and everything for it. But, so if you're buying a metal cased pedal, something like that, okay, make sure the buttons work. Buying used gear is fun, but you have to be careful, And like I was saying, my point is, like, I try to stick with the stuff that I don't have to worry about if it's broken or not until I see something that, like that Marshall back there, that, I got to have it. It's limited edition. I got to have it. But when I bought it, I was prepared that this might have to go to the shop and get, gone through. Might have to go on the bench. The bench is going to be $65 to put it on. So you got to understand that, And if you buy a guitar, have someone look at it, That's all there is to it. Like, I can have people drop stuff off at my local music store. Generally, everybody knows the guy that owns the music store. So there's a safety factor there. And, if I was going to buy a custom shop Stratocaster, I would take it over to him and say, hey, drop it off for Terry at a day. Let him look it over for me. And if they were like, oh, well, I'm not comfortable with that, I said, well, can you just take it over and have him look at it? And then he'll tell me, well, I'm not comfortable with that. I said, okay. There's something hinky going on. You know what I'm saying? If there's something hinky, you don't want to get involved in it. Stay away from the hinkiness, Either it's stolen or something like that. You don't want to deal with that. So, okay. Hey, used gear is fun. Just be careful. That's all I was trying to make a point of. Just be careful. I've been taken advantage of. It can happen to you. It can happen to anybody. So, all right, be safe. Hey, I'm the Reverend Hellbilly. If you like this, you like my channel, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, okay? All right, I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.